Hey everybody, Louis Max. I had the chance to talk with Dorothy Danner, a star of Broadway and the opera, about what it was like coming to New York City from the Midwest in the 1950s. She has some great stories, especially one about Janis Joplin you don't want to miss. Hope you enjoy this one. Peace.
Stand clear of the closing doors, please.
What up, son? What up? Louis Max, Grind&Pivot, Queens, New York. Today, we have one of the newest recipients of a Lifetime Achievement Award from the National Opera Association. She is an actor, dancer, and stage director. But don't let that fool you. She's a regular person inside and out, just like you and I. It is my pleasure to introduce to you the incomparable Dorothy Danner. Dame Dottie, how are you?
Dame Dot.
And what's cooking? What's cooking out there?
Oh, what's cooking? Well, first I should tell you that I damed myself, Dame Dot, and it was a particularly difficult rehearsal, and I'd lost all confidence, so I damed myself. What's cooking? Well, fortunately, during this very dreadful time, we live in a 150-year-old Victorian house in Englewood, New Jersey, that has at least 150 projects that need to be finished. So I am learning all sorts of things, construction and painting and shutters and hanging things. And so it's a very interesting time. I mean, I am so fortunate because I have so many friends stuck in tiny apartments in New York. In fact, some of them come out to visit just to sit on an open porch. I have time for what I've never done before, a book club. I mean, when you're in rehearsal most of your life, or you're studying for rehearsal, that's wonderful. I take yoga 3 times a week. I wish that phone hadn't rung right then.
Don't worry,
sorry.
we'll get it. We'll get it.
Okay, but I study yoga 3 times a week, Zoom. So there are all sorts of new skills that I'm learning that I really have never had time to do. I'm heat gunning windows, stripping shutters, So actually, it's been an interesting time. I'm never bored.
I love it. Great to hear. That's great. That's great to hear. Yeah, absolutely challenging, obviously. But in a way, I'm in the same boat as well. I've been able to really hunker down the same way and do some projects, come up with some different things,
yes,
and realize some of the talents or that you wanted to become a little more fruitful.
Yes, yeah, yes, and also all the brilliant things to watch. I mean, what was on Thursday? The theater from London. We had the operas from the Met. There is so much culture.
There really is,
and many things that I have never seen. So I think I feel guilty about feeling this because I know how many people, my God, are suffering in tiny little places and desperate. So I am grateful.
Absolutely. So before we get into some of the crazy stories I think you might be holding on to, bring us up to speed, right, with some of your family history, and just tell the folks out there listening the relationship that the quote-unquote Danner family has that they might know of, and then we can get into some of the good stuff. Tell me.
Okay. Well, let's see. I married into the Danner family way, way back. I married, Harry was an opera singer, and then he became an actor. And family dinners were always very interesting because there was his sister, Blythe Danner, who's just a fantastic actress. And through her, there were many wonderful experiences. She was married to a great guy, Bruce Paltrow, who was a a television producer of St. Elsewhere and many other hit shows. And then Harry and Blythe have a brother who had a different father from the Menick violin dynasty, I'd call it. So there are 13 generations of violin makers. And he's a brilliant artist. And he married a friend of mine, Mary Zahn, who we worked together in No Strings, and I introduced them. So
No
that
kidding.
was that.
Wow.
Yes. So there's that generation. And then we have Hillary, who's, just so special. We're so fortunate to have Hillary. And she did a lot of television work before she went into her jelly business.
That's right. Shout out to Jenkins Jellies. And while we're on the subject, what are you craving this holiday season? Jenkins Jellies, the original 7-pepper jelly, all natural and gluten-free. Jenkins Jellies will spice up your meal. Perfect for your cheese board, grazing table, and charcuterie. I've even put it on my pizza. And when you insert Grind&Pivot 15 in the below discount code box, you'll receive 15% off your order. Give Jenkins Jellies this holiday season.
Shout out, yes. And then, of course, there's her cousin, Gwyneth Paltrow, who almost everyone in the world knows with all of her businesses and extreme talents. And Jake, equally talented. Mm-hmm. Her brother, who is a filmmaker. He just finished writing and directing a film in Israel, I think. And he is married to an internationally famous artist who has shows at the Guggenheim and all over the world, Berlin, and they have 2 children now. And Bill, Harry Blythe's brother, has a daughter named Kate Menick.
Yep, I know her.
Yeah, she's
Ray
one
Donovan.
of the stars. Ray Donovan.
Love her.
And she was one of the stars of the L Word, and so. Family dinners were always interesting. And, through the years, before Gwyneth was married, there might have been Brad Pitt he was at Christmas, I think.
Brad Pitt. Brad Pitt.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes,
Wow.
These were people she was dating at the time. Ben Affleck was around. And then she has, a wonderful husband, Chris Martin, and now she has another wonderful husband. So she's, we're all very lucky.
Right. So when I asked what's cooking, a lot was cooking, huh?
Yeah, maybe I was going on too long about that, but I really appreciate everything I've learned and experienced through that whole family. I mean, that again was fortunate.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sounds very, very interesting. Even that sounds almost like a conversation on its own.
Yes.
Very well might be. So you're from St. Louis, huh? Originally?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about growing up in that area of the country at that time, and were you always involved musically in the arts?
Oh, no. Growing up, it was outside of St. Louis. It was rural. And so I would really spend my summers walking in the woods or fishing. My mother didn't drive, and so it was very limited what we could do. And so we did a lot of fishing, and we would throw the crawfish back so we would have something to do the next day because there wasn't a lot going on.
Sounds exciting.
And it was. And then the bookmobile came once a month, and we could take 12 books out. That was the big day. But then I know the name is Grind&Pivot. But then when I was 8 years old, we had new neighbors, and they had a television set.
Wow. Okay.
And and we became very fond of each other. And I remember the moment I peeked in their window and I saw a woman who had quite a few feathers on her. So it must have been Swan Lake, I guess. But she was on point. She was dancing on her toes in these little berets. And I was so fascinated. And this gorgeous music was playing, and she was dancing to this music. And that was a pivot point.
You were hooked. So you were pivotal moment, 8 years old.
Yes.
Wow, that's okay. And it was not even in your own house.
Exactly. And so I went in and I tried on my friend's point shoes, and I had just seen her bourreeing on point. So I ran around on point because I did have very strong feet. And the woman ran to my mother's house, to our home, and said, "This child must take dance class." So that's how it all happened. And I'm still grateful to her, to that family. Yes. So then it became about dance.
So it was all about that. Now, did you go to high school you went to high school in St. Louis as well, correct?
Yes, I went to high school. I went to Bishop DuBois High School. But by the time I was 15, I was working professionally. And that was extremely fortunate. So it was after my sophomore year, I started working professionally for 3 seasons.
How did that? Yeah, tell us a little bit about that gig.
That was so fascinating and set us up for successful careers in New York, because we would do 11 shows a season. And that was a summer season. It's a huge theater. It's 11,000 seats outdoors. Yes. And so, but they would bring in all of the original choreographers or the dance captains or somebody who knew all of the originals. There's 33 professional shows. So when we went off to audition for Broadway shows, we got work very fast because we had so many styles and had learned so much. So that was fortunate.
So you were prepared. You got prepared within a very short amount of time, obviously.
Oh, completely. Yes. Yeah. So we were ready to hit New York, and that was good.
Right. So at 18 or right before you turned 18?
Yeah, I just turned 18 when I got on the train with the rest of the people who closed the final show and off to New York.
Right. What did your parents say? Were they supportive? Were they behind you?
Absolutely. I remember when I was 15, I said, "Mom, I'm going to be leaving as soon as I can." And she said, she had an accent, "Dorothy, I went to a different country at that age, so I cannot stop you."
Oh, so she actually understood.
Absolutely.
Interesting. Any brothers or sisters?
You have a brother and a sister. Yes, I had a brother, and he was a criminalist, I guess you'd say, and my sister was a teacher. I mean, she was a secretary, and then in her later years became a teacher.
Right. So that's interesting. So your mom really did understand. That's a little bit progressive back then, which is great.
Absolutely. Right. Absolutely. But I had to, it was a really no frills upbringing. I mean, you had to make your own decisions, and it was different. It's an immigrant family, and so we weren't spoiled.
From where can I ask? From where?
Oh yeah, they came from Germany in 1927.
Wow. Okay.
And they met over here, but they were very young, and there was a big immigration from Germany, thank goodness, at that time in 1927, 28. So, and it is different than an American upbringing, I think, though. I didn't realize that for years, but.
Right. So she kind of forced the independence on you a little bit, which later on you realized was a great thing. Yeah. Right.
Oh, yes, because I loved my high school so much, but they told me that I had to make a decision. They said, "You cannot do another year of dancing because you have to leave school early. You cannot do that." And I was heartbroken. But I thought, wait a minute, I have one more year of high school, but this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. So
Go for it.
So I went to my mother, and she said, you have to make your own decisions. It's your life.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah. So, I was looking for help, but
yeah,
I said, no,
exactly.
It's your
so
life.
You did it on your own.
Do
so,
it. But I think that has really given me a lot of strength.
Yeah, no doubt about it. No doubt about it.
Yeah.
So that was really what, mid to late 60s?
Oh, God,
50s.
no.
I'm sorry, 50s. My apologies.
Do you know how old you are?
No. Mid to late
The one you're
50s.
talking
I'm
to.
sorry. I'm so sorry.
No. I left, let's see. I left September 1st of 1958 to go to New York.
Okay, 58. Okay, because I'll tell you, because I was born in 59, but because I know the Lil Abner gig you got, right, was
yes.
somewhere around that time. I thought the Lil Abner gig was for like 56 or 57. So
that's when it was on Broadway.
Gotcha.
This was a road company.
That's why. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
As they say in 2020, my bad.
Oh, you've done your research, though.
I've tried.
Date. Good for you.
So 58. Okay, so now I know where we're at. So you took the train. You took a train to New York City.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Wow, what was that like? What was the train ride like? Remember?
I had taken trains before. Well, it was exhilarating because I was with people, very experienced theater people who had the leads, in the show that had just closed. Although I can't remember what show it was because it was the last of the 11, and they were very kind. Well, it might have been Kismet, but they were very kind because they knew what we were going through and what we were going to, and how we were filled with anticipation and terror. And
Absolutely. I have a question. I don't want to interject. I'm just thinking about this. At the time,
yeah,
you were focused on on dancing and being and getting to the next round. What about relationships?
Yes.
Was that on your mind? Was that something that was in the background, sitting, just lurking around, or nothing to do?
Well, I had very close friends. I had a lot of close friends, from the first high school I went to before I was tossed out. So I had, but when you start in theater and start dancing and you have this common passion, your friends start to evolve around that. But I still have friends in St. Louis who were not dancers. Let's see, there was certainly a gentleman in my life, but I don't know, did he go to the service or something? But I just knew what I needed to do. And that was, I had to leave Melville, which is where the town I lived in. And there was too much to explore.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it.
Yeah.
Okay, so you got to New York.
Yes.
I'm picturing you getting off the train.
Oh, okay. Oh my goodness.
Set it up for us. Paint the picture.
Okay. The first few months in New York, I don't know how I lived through it, or how anyone could be that stupid. But it was more of a sort of a Damon Runyon New York.
Exactly. That's why I'm at. Of course.
Yes. The West Side was a bit of a Wild West Side. There were no tall buildings. There were, so the first place I lived was with some older dancers from St. Louis who had gone on to New York before, and it was one of those railroad apartments. And, where there's one bathroom for the entire floor called a water closet. And then there's a bathtub in the kitchen with the tin hood that you bring down. You use it as a table, or you open it and use it as a bathtub. So, but I only stayed there for a little while. They tore that building down to make Lincoln Center. So it was an old railroad apartment. And I was doing a show, and I remember researching, and I went down to Orchard Street last year to see, they called the Tenement Museum. And I went down there and I said, gee, I didn't need to come here.
Yeah, right. I lived here.
So,
yeah, exactly.
Yes. So, but it was fascinating. And then we moved into this place. 4 of us shared. because everybody from St. Louis would do these little steps, so they'd help each other into an apartment. It was a hotel. I won't really tell the name of it. It was on West 49th Street, and it was known to all of us as Goldie's Flop House.
Oh, yeah. West 49th is right. And
Yes.
I know the area very well. I mean,
Okay,
you might have you could have been Adelaide as a hot box dancer from Guys and Dolls.
Well, I'm going to bring up Guys and Dolls in just a minute from my first audition, but I thought it was really, my mother was a little concerned, and I said, no, Mom, that it's such a friendly, safe place that the ladies keep their doors open. So I had to walk up 4 floors, and on the second and third floor, the ladies would have their doors open, but they'd be like posed on the sofa, and so it really was a bit of a bordello.
Really?
And,
interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And Goldie ran it from his little switchboard downstairs. But I was so naive that I really thought, well, they must feel safe. So that's how naive I was. We were across from a tea room, and we used to watch the young ladies come out, and they would see a traveler or a tourist, and we could watch them roll this guy.
Yeah, they lure them in
down the street,
and
he wouldn't have a wallet by the time he rolled past the 4th one, but he wouldn't be aware of it. So it was a very colorful, different, time. And then and I had to make money, so I worked at the Woolworths right there on one of the last ones where now the big hotel is. And I made $1 an hour. And so I made $4 a day. And that paid for my 2 dance classes a day. And that was $2 each. So, and then it was interesting because that Woolworths was across the street from one of the Broadway shows that I got right away. And so I'd walk over there to see my friends from Woolworths. And so it was, it was such that across the street journey was many miles. But, and so then I went to my first audition. This is a colorful story also. And it was for the Rockettes at Radio City.
Wow.
And yes, so I was down to the very end, and they said, "We're sorry, you're a half an inch too tall." At that time, the Rockettes were a little shorter.
Really?
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes.
Because it's usually the other way around, right? Usually the other way around.
Well, it has to go from the tallest person down, and the tallest person could only be 5'8", and I think I was 5'8.5". So you had to absolutely be a perfect height to fit into that line. So, and I guess this was the second week so I was devastated. I so wanted that job, and now I'm so grateful I didn't get it, because I would have not done all of the Broadway work, because it was a steady job and you did 4 shows a day.
Yeah.
So
do you remember what they paid back then? You remember what the Rockettes paid back then? You have any idea?
No, I don't. But a Broadway show, my first Broadway show was $103.50.
That was good money back then.
Well, I guess so. It seems silly now, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It really,
yes,
yeah, it does. Wow.
But that was it.
What was what was the first Broadway one you got? Was it Once Upon a Mattress? Was it that, or no?
Yeah. Well, I did the what did I do? The Little Abner. I got within 2 months, and then that show closed. I signed a 6-month contract, but after 6 weeks, we closed in Toronto, I think. So I thought, well, and then I was fortunate enough to get Once Upon a Mattress. But I have to tell you, finish this one little story, because your friend Russell thought it was interesting. But so I went out of the stage door of the Rockette audition, and this is how naive. And this fellow who looked like he came out of Guys and Dolls, that really quirky guy in Guys and Dolls. And he said, would you like to make $50 in the next hour? And I said, oh, that would be great. So he said, well, I have to make a phone call. I said, okay. So I waited, and then we got in a cab, and he was taking me over to the east side.
So you went into the, wait a minute. So you met a guy just on the street.
And he was standing at the stage door.
At the door. Yeah, he says, you want to make $50.
Yeah.
I get that. And you actually got in a cab with him.
Absolutely.
Sure, why not?
Yeah. So and then in the cab, I did have a thought. I thought, I wonder if I'm supposed to be doing this. And then I was already there. So he took me to this building, and by this time I'm feeling maybe I should have thought about that more. And he said to the doorman, "Send her up." And when he said that, I thought, just the tone, I said, "Oh my God, I'm in trouble." It's a long story. I got out of it. I got out of it. Well, anyhow, I got out of it through a lot of tears. But that's an example of how foolish I was when I first went to New York.
Right. That woke you up a little bit, you think?
Yeah, I did a couple of stupid things, but then, yes. Yeah. By that time, yes.
Wow. So how were you? So you were basically. How did you find out about the auditions from? In Variety? Were those trades? Were from the trades? Is that how you found out?
Yes, the trade papers. Mm-hmm. Yes. When you first go there. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Were there agents at the time that you could get hooked up with yet, or that was still?
No, because I was really an ensemble person at that point. So until I started doing roles, an agent really wouldn't be interested. And that took a couple of shows. But anyhow, Once Upon a Mattress was a great experience.
Yeah, how'd you talk about that? That was Carol Burnett and George Abbott, right? George Abbott was involved in that?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Okay, so what was it like? What was it like working with Carol Burnett at that time?
Well, okay. I'll tell you the first time I met her. Another naive story, but I went to the costume to the designer room, and they had to measure us, and everything was made from scratch because the producers were the Eckerts, and everything had to be perfect, and it was a period show. And I went up to, can't think of the name of it right now, but was famous, and there was a red-haired woman there. I didn't know anybody, and so I asked her, I said, "Are you a singer or a dancer?" And she said, "Neither. I play the part of the princess." So it was Carol Burnett, and that's how I met her. Yeah. And, she was wonderful, wonderful. Yeah. So that was a very good experience.
Wow. That's so interesting. It really, really is.
Yes.
So how long did that show run for?
Oh, well, they told us we only signed 6 weeks contract, but it became a big hit. It got great reviews. So I was already booked to do my first industrial, so I had to leave. And because the show was only that they kept getting thrown out of theaters because another show was booked to go in there. So after the 6 weeks, then they moved to another place. And so I think we played 5 theaters, and the talk about town was, don't go to see Mattress, wait till it comes to your neighborhood theater.
No, you don't need to go out. Right. Okay.
We were right. Go down the street. We'll get there eventually. So we were shuffling about. Also, a fabulous woman was in the show named Jane White, great actress. And she, you didn't mess around with Jane. If she told you to do something, she played Queen Agravain in it. And then, she would watch rehearsal, and then she'd just take me aside. She said, "You're coming to my acting class." You didn't argue. And so she's the one who started me really getting involved very deeply
in the craft,
classes.
Right.
Yes,
okay. So you started to learn.
Thank goodness.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
So that was another pivotal moment in a way, but at the same time, the industrials, was there a connection? Was that something that you found to be a little more steady at the time?
Well, no.
How did that work out?
They'd only be, make 3 weeks work, 2 weeks work, maybe 4. First one I did was, when they were very expensively produced, we had our own train, and we went across the country. It was the Oldsmobile show.
So what was it, more of a review?
Yes, yes, and we introduced the product, and we'd be in very, not theaters, convention halls, and all the salesmen would be there, and the cars would be driving around, and we'd be on roller skates holding onto the door handle.
Exactly. Okay, I
trying
understand.
to look comfortable. Yes. So, but I did a lot of them, and they paid quite a bit, and this you would put in between your Broadway shows. So after Mattress in the middle of Mattress, I went off to do the first industrial, but I came right back to Mattress. They let me in right away. And then, you'd do something else, whatever. You'd do a dinner theater, or you'd do an industrial, or a summer stock, there really was quite a bit of work.
Yeah, it was grinding. Really, it sounds like it's perfect for this. It sounds like more than pivot. It's grind. It's a grind.
Yeah, absolutely. And you had to keep studying to keep up, especially since I didn't go to a university where you have 4 years of training, and by the time you're all set in your auditions and you know everything. But here, this is just grasping, finding out what you need for the next job, where you might head. So it was a different world then. And I like to work in the universities and work with the young people. And I think, wow, this is a better way to go, I think. But also I would have missed out on those wonderful experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. Painting the canvas in a different way, which was
with George Abbott, and going to Tenderloin, and Noel Coward with Sail Away, working with him.
Giants.
Those giants of the world, of the theater world, at least. Yeah.
Right. How did you come about working with Ed Sullivan, or on the show? How did that happen?
Well, that again, by that time, I was a working dancer on Broadway, in a lot of shows, and we knew the choreographers. Let's see, it was Peter Gennaro, did quite a few of them. And I can't remember if I had to audition each time, or if somebody would just call and say, Peter wants you to do this show. But I stayed more in theater. I enjoyed theater more than television. And the Ed Sullivan shows, there were some very interesting times on there, but, they started, you'd shoot Sunday morning, and then you'd do it live at 9:00 Sunday night. You rehearsed all week, but it was still live television, and I found that's a bit nerve-wracking.
Sure, it's tough. That's real show time once you get going.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember growing up. Ed Sullivan was the biggest thing on Sunday nights.
Oh, yes. Yeah. But I did do that infamous show with Nancy Sinatra, The Boots Are Made for Walking. And that was fun. Although I was never quite that comfortable in rock music, especially at that early time. And, but it's such an iconic show, so that was, I was in that. I did, was in a show with Janis Joplin.
So
that was
what was that like? That was interesting. So you kind of got to meet Joplin face to face, and the aura of Janis Joplin. Tell us a little bit about that.
What? I didn't really see the aura because we weren't in the number with her. I was doing another. I don't know who we were backing that for that particular show, but I saw her at 9 a.m. I remember on Sunday we were in the elevator together in the old Ed Sullivan building, and she had a bottle of, I don't know what she used to drink, Southern Comfort or something like that. And she had it grasped in her hands.
9 a.m.
And I said, 9 a.m.
I'm not surprised. Go ahead. Okay.
I said, wow, Janice, or something. And, I don't know, she made some nice remarks. She seemed very, I observed her backstage with her group, and she seemed very insecure and really, needing her group. I mean, it wasn't like a bossy star running around. She didn't seem to have that kind of ego at all.
Yeah, I'm thinking that's when she was with Big Brother and the holding company somewhere, maybe even earlier than that. I'm not sure, but that's interesting. Yes. Yeah. So she came off as being
nervous,
right?
Insecure on this. Well, Ed Sullivan's show, it's a new experience, really, I guess.
Yeah, for sure.
But I was fascinated watching her because she was very vulnerable, I thought. And then I saw her after the show in the elevator, and she has a bottle. And I said, well, you didn't finish it. And she said, it's my second one. So,
oh, boy.
I know. So that was
true to form.
Yeah. But I felt something for her as a person, just observing her backstage.
Yeah, you were able to see that. Yeah, because that's interesting because all the things that have been written and how she was portrayed, but you might have been right with the word vulnerable, needy. But it's unfortunate. I'm thinking that the drugs and the liquor, definitely was a comfort for her or an escape, I should say. And it just got out of hand. It got out of hand too fast.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Anyone else? Anyone else?
Oh, I'll say I worked with Neil Diamond and we used to do a lot of numbers on our own, just with Peter Gennaro, but I worked with a lot of interesting people in the Broadway shows, if you want to know about any, like Katherine Hepburn or Debbie Reynolds, or, sort of, okay, I will tell you what about Katherine Hepburn then. Tell me if I'm telling too many stories. Just I can't see you, but just
no problem. I'll tell you.
Okay.
You mean when I roll my eyes?
I wish I could see them. Do a deep sigh or something.
Okay, you got it.
But anyhow, Katherine Hepburn, she was a perfectionist, and I was a replacement in that show. In fact, Hillary was just a baby when I went into. It was called Coco, and it was about Coco Chanel, and Katherine Hepburn was the star. But I've never worked with a star who would climb 5 flights of stairs if you had one line to say and you hadn't gone on before, as an understudy. She went to all the understudy rehearsals and she literally climbed 5 flights to go over this line with somebody. It was amazing. But I had never met her when the opening show that I did, because I didn't have that much interaction with her. And so I was opening night and I'm feeling pretty nervous, a little out of shape. And I'm in my pose and we're in this round, turntable. And so I'm in my pose and my turn goes past Katherine Hepburn and she starts shouting, "I hate those shoes." And I thought, oh my God, what did I do? And then but she was doing that as the character also. Well, I got off the stage and her dresser was there and said, "What size shoes do you wear?" I said, 7. And so she came back and it said, "Shoes designed for Katherine Hepburn." And those are the shoes I had to put on because she was such a perfectionist. I mean, there must have been, 18 models out there or something.
Right, but she caught that.
She hated the shoes that they put me in on my opening night. But I really admired her. Yeah,
that's a cool story. That's really that gives a different side of her of that I didn't know, and maybe the people that are listening for sure. That's interesting that she was such a perfectionist and aware.
Yes, but she also was a perfectionist about herself. It wasn't just other people. That's what you really admire. That's the way she felt that's the integrity she had for the show. For her work.
Interesting. So you did some modeling at some point. I mean, it's just I'm trying to just take out another brush and see where I'm going to get my paint out again. So I know you got you did some modeling as well, and a lot in Europe. Is that true?
Well, those are the shows that got you to go to Europe. But this is all happening at the same time. But there was a big turn in fashion at that time. This was, I guess, the late 60s when I started doing this, because they had never used music on the runway. It was kind of boring, just a fashion show, and then models would walk up and down the runway. But then they wanted to theatricalize.
So production now is becoming more of a production.
Yes.
Okay.
So now they have all the music going, and the models were nervous about this, so they brought in tall dancers, and we would have to dance on the runway and lead the models around. Well, not, and but we got to go to Europe. I don't know. I think I went 4 times on these, and that was great. But the most exciting modeling show was something called Versailles. It was at the Palace of Versailles, and it became so well known that there's a book out, a new book called The Battle of Versailles. There was a retrospective at the museum, the Metropolitan Museum Fashion Department of Versailles, and it was in 1973, and it actually changed fashion because at that point, everything, the great designers were all French or European, and the American designers were a lot less known, but they didn't have quite the standing of the Europeans. So, yes, so they took the 5 top European designers and they took the 5 top American designers, well, almost. And we did a show in the Palace of Versailles, which was produced by the Rothschilds.
Oh boy. Wow.
Baroness Elise, can't remember. I remember her very well, right. But nevertheless, and so we were...
low budget, right? Very low budget, huh?
Oh, well, actually, the American was.
Yeah, no.
And that's what was so interesting. The French, they had limousines
over
driving
over the top.
Off there. Oh my God! And they, it was Yves Saint Laurent, Givenchy, Dior. I mean, those were the people. And we had Halston and Bill Blass and Oscar de la Renta and Anne Klein. So, but it was throwing these 2 forces together for the first time. And our star was Liza Minnelli, and her godmother staged it, Kay Thompson. And let's see, on the other, and the French people had Josephine Baker. They had Rudolph Nureyev.
Wow.
It was really a wild event.
Okay, so let's cut for a second. So let's give me some juice. Give me something. What was it like? What were what was the nightlife? What was the parties? What was the stuff that went on behind the scenes?
Yeah.
I played rock and roll for many years on the road, and you would play from 10 to 3, and then from 3 a.m. to 7 a.m. is when it all went down. So I'm not asking for, I'm not going to make you tell me really what happened, but, give me something. Give us the flavor.
Oh, well, and actually, we were so tired. We would work really 12 hours. We'd be hanging over the chairs, and the Baroness would be furious with the Americans because they didn't know how to act in the palace. But we were so tired. There was one working bathroom. It was not so glamorous. But what I was shocked about, and I'd seen a lot of temper tantrums and things, through all the years, I thought the behavior of the designers or of the fashion world made show business, made us look like children.
Really?
I know. Oh yeah, I know. There was one lady who, one model was going to go on, and I won't say the designer, but he was something else. He ripped it off of her because another designer wasn't supposed to see that until this, and I was in another big fashion show where one designer, all of those things were stolen at the airport. So there was a lot of drama.
Yeah, heavy ego, but in a different way, right?
Hysterical. Yes, hysterical drama, which really I wasn't used to seeing in theater. But then they had this party. Now the party would be like Princess Grace was there, the Duchess of Windsor, Andy Warhol. I mean, that's the group that the jet setters who were invited to this, because it was a benefit for the Palace of Versailles. And they say it was to do that, but actually what we heard, it was because the palace had termites, and this was a big problem. So that's the scoop on that. And then we had a fantastic party, and of course the Rothschilds gave it, so all this gorgeous wine, and it was wonderful. And I had my favorite moment, though. I left the party, and I had a beautiful glass of wine, and I was walking by myself down the hall of mirrors, and it was all candlelight, and your mind could just fly to another century, to another whatever. It was magnificent to be. So that was Versailles. Then that was I was very, again, lucky to have.
Yeah, that's a great experience. That's a great experience.
Yes, it was.
Amazing experience. Now, speaking of hysterical, which is in a different way, hysteria or hysterical being funny, you worked with Mel Brooks. Is that correct?
Yes.
Now,
yeah.
Give us a little bit of that. I've heard a little bit about it, but how did you get the Springtime for Hitler gig, and how did that work out? And was just what was the feeling going on while they were actually doing that?
Well, we got it because I knew the choreographer. I mean, we had done a lot of shows together. We did, Diane Carroll, Richard. Anyhow, it doesn't matter. But we did several Broadway shows together. His name was Alan Johnson. He was Mel Brooks's favorite choreographer, and by that time we were all friends. I went to a party. It was just I don't know, a couple of weeks before we got married, before Harry and I got married, and Alan was there. He said, "Hey, you want to be in a Mel Brooks film?" "Sure, Alan." "Yeah, when is it?" So I said, "Well, we're going to be on our honeymoon, but we could cut it a day short. We'll be." So that was how I got into the Mel Brooks film, but I knew most of the kids in it. So we went into rehearsal. I have to tell you, they got us on an extra. So we made $198 on that film.
Wow.
But we got a lot of money later when they did it at when Mel Brooks was honored nationally, and they had to show that. And so by that time the union caught on. But anyhow, it was great fun. All these we met all of these wonderful models. They were the beer and pretzel ladies, right? and all of the dancers. We all worked together on Broadway. We all knew each other, so it was just a hoot. And Mel Brooks, and he was married to Anne Bancroft. When we were doing that, that very naughty swastika circle, Mel Brooks was up on top because it was an overhead shot. He was laughing hysterically. I thought he was going to fall on the floor. I mean, he was just so involved. And, and then when we did the final shot, and then the curtain came down, and then we said, okay, let's all die, So then the curtain went up after we'd done a really good take, and we were just all lying in terrible positions. So we got a little joke back on him, but it was a wonderful experience. It was very freeing. There was no tension. It was
right. So it was it was an all around, just like you said, a hoot, an all around great time.
Absolutely. And who knew it was going to become such an iconic moment in
for
film.
Sure. Absolutely. Big time moment. So that's a good segue, actually, because you met Mr. Danner. How did you guys actually meet and take us to that next pivotal chapter of the Mr. and Mrs. Danner? Now I'm losing you a little bit. Hang on. You there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Now I can hear you. Go ahead. Yeah.
All right. So in a Coca-Cola industrial show. And I remember walking into rehearsal, and again, so many of us, we knew each other by that time. And there was this very handsome fellow I'd never seen before. And I thought, my, who is that? And so that's where we first met. We went on the road with the Coca-Cola industrial show. And then I guess we married maybe 15 months later. And he was the only person I knew who actually was an opera singer, and he went into the Met studio, the Metropolitan Opera Studio, and I went I went back to Broadway for a while, but then when then Hillary was born. By that time, Harry was singing professionally all over, and so Hillary was dragged along.
Right, yeah, she mentioned a little bit of that.
Many places. She really was raised backstage.
Yeah.
So then Harry, ironically, went more into theaters because he would do the lead in The Student Prince and The Merry Widow and all those wonderful operettas. And then I ended up in opera, so kind of switched places.
Yeah, that's interesting. Now, before you guys met, how were your opera chops? I mean, at the time, not singing or anything. I'm just saying, just in terms of, was that a bond between you two where you could relate? No. No, or yeah.
Oh, no.
Zero.
No, I had seen an opera. I saw Butterfly. I think I was 18.
Madame Butterfly. Okay.
Yeah, was a dancer in it and gave me a ticket. And then, when we started courting is when I started going to operas. And he was at the Met Studio. So I got to see a lot of, wonderful things. I mean, because of that, he was actually in Maria Callas's master class.
Oh, okay.
Not
Gotcha.
the show, but the actual master
the class.
Right. So I got to really get to know this new world, which I thought was quite bizarre.
From behind the scenes.
Yeah, well, just the whole feeling of opera, it's very different.
It is. I still to this day have a very difficult time with the classics, Traviata, so forth. I don't know. My parents had a subscription to the opera for all those years. And,
really?
Yeah, they went on a regular basis, for many, many years.
Lucky you.
Yeah, I just couldn't, I mean, I got bitten by the rock and roll pop, bug early, but I just couldn't, I respected what went into it. I think I had a hard time with the timbre of the vocal, if you know what I mean. That's really kind of what got me a little bit. It just, I don't know. I'm not sure, but as you get older and you see the beauty of it.
Yes. And yes. See, and I had just the opposite feeling. Rock and roll, I felt very estranged from it. But opera, I could feel embraced by the music, and it's not, and I didn't want it to be that way because, it's fine that it happened that way, but now I listen and, like you're listening to opera now, I'm listening to, oh, okay. Oh, I get that. Yeah, yesterday I discovered Philip Glass. I had to watch something, and I thought,
okay. Well, Philip Glass is a left turn, and then maybe parking the car with the back stuck out.
But by the time I finished the program, I really started to understand it.
Yes, absolutely.
But they had wonderful visuals with it, and I thought, this is probably heresy to say, but somehow the visuals helped me digest and take in the music, and
it's it's a package. No, it's still a presentation. Yes. I think it's the presentation.
Yes. So anyhow, it's wonderful though, isn't it? Life, learning. And
absolutely. So
you don't change your mind when you're in trouble.
Tell me about it. So you made this transition from stage performer to director in those years. Did it go around that time that you guys started to go up to Lake George and Chautauqua?
Yes, yeah. But really, I was pushed into everything. There were mentors, and the thing is that it was absolutely the right timing for me. I never wanted to be a choreographer. I certainly never wanted to be a director. But when I traveled with Harry and Hillary was a little baby, I was doing something at Lincoln Center, Beggar on Horseback, which was an unfortunate bomb. So I went with Harry to Lake George, and there was this darling young director, and it was his first professional job. And he said, please choreograph 3 penny opera for me. I said, no, I really have never done it, never thought about it. He said, please, there's no one else to do it. He said, there's no other dancer here. So I felt sorry for him. I said, I'll give it a try. Anyhow, yep. So, somehow when I was off the hook because it wasn't me knocking on a door saying I can do this, I felt safe. And then I started working with this guy, and he was brilliant. But he had gone the other way. He had this degree and that degree and this degree all over. I had the practical knowledge, and he had the degrees and the brilliant mind that could really feed me. And so we fed each other, and we worked together. And, he unfortunately was one of the young, brilliant ones who died of AIDS, but I so appreciate what he did. So, and then the next year, the David Lloyd, who ran the company, he said, do Merry Widow for us. I said, I don't know how to do that. And he said, ask so-and-so and so-and-so. And he said, I already did. So I said, okay, I'll do it.
Right.
Then.
So they knew you were kind of resourceful anyway, so you're going to do it. Right.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they were watching me, but I just didn't have the confidence to do it. But anyhow, that's how it all started. Then somebody else saw something I did there. I did a couple of comic ballets, and, opera's not that large of a world. So other people would come and see that. And then they'd say, please come to my company. And would you do this? And so the doors opened for me through people pushing me into places that I didn't think I was capable of doing.
Right. And then as little by little, it kind of snowballed, and you got more confident, obviously. And you obviously had that talent somewhere, and you were able to make it.
Well, then you realize that, and the last Broadway show I had done was Ballroom for Michael Bennett. And I had such stage fright. And so I thought, no, I don't think I want to do this anymore. So it came again at the right time. I'd outgrown performing. And there I was directing. And then thank goodness for those years and years and years of acting classes, then I started to get confident. I had some great mentors also. And so I was out on my own and very busy. So it's good.
Yeah, that's very interesting to me. Now, also what's coming up, and I'm thinking now, is you got involved and you went back to something that you might have liked, which was getting involved with Juilliard and the different schools, right?
Oh, yeah, that was wonderful. I loved, I worked at Juilliard and Curtis and, oh my God, NYU, Academy of Music. I don't know, the teaching jobs were there. I really loved working with the young people. They were so much fun, and doing a lot of scenes programs. And that was great. Now, you see, one of the big problems, I didn't have, I spoke a little German, but I didn't really have an ear for languages, and everything I was doing was in French and German and Italian.
Right?
Of
course.
That's really tough.
How did you deal with that? What was the process of you learning, and did you have to study? You listened, right?
Boy.
I mean, you had to listen, obviously.
Oh, and there are these wonderful word by word translation books by a man named Nico Costel, and you would sit there for weeks and weeks, and you'd take down and you'd write completely, in your score every English word, and then you'd research it, and so it was an enormous amount of work to make the transition to opera. But when I first started in here's a really important point. Opera wanted to change, like I was talking about. Fashion wanted to change and become more theatrical. Opera was a stand and sing, and then it started people wanted more, or they wanted the producers. Everybody wanted opera to feel more contemporary. So, and they needed to make money, so they started producing operettas. Gilbert and Sullivan,
Yeah, I love HMS
again.
Pinafore. HMS Pinafore.
Oh, I love
my favorite. One of my favorite.
I
My favorite. I guess it's like lot opera, right? Really, but HMS Pinafore is great. Oh boy, love that.
Oh, that I've done that a lot. I think my favorite, I don't know, might be Iolanthe, but I love doing pirates. Actually, Pinafore is a little more difficult to stage because there's a reserve as part of the, the satire.
Yeah,
And
right. I was Dick Deadeye when I was young in a summer.
Best role.
Yeah, a great role.
Oh, that's wonderful. You had that experience. But so when I went to these opera companies with Harry, they trusted me because they knew I had a theater background. So they'd say, please teach some dance or do this, and I was in demand because there weren't that many directors in opera who could stage. And I love working with big choruses, and I love, doing a lot of movement. And so that was just what they needed. And that's when I was there for a transition. Again, good fortune.
Yeah, timing, good fortune, pivotal.
Yeah,
but you had but you took the bull by its horns. You were able to really adapt, which was interesting.
Yeah, you got to be open for it.
Right. So
and that's not always easy.
True.
And if you're lucky, someone will push you through.
That's true. That's true. But your mom also seems like she gave you that ability somewhere at some point, which was interesting because you can go back and say, listen, I'm going to make the decision. So I'm going to deal. I mean, listen, we all make mistakes, and that has nothing to do with it, but you were able to kind of say, all right, bring it on. Let me try, let me try to do it.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly. There is one story that I think probably would be very interesting that concerns opera and modern. I again, something important that happened, and that's Houston Opera put me with Michael Kahn, who was the brilliant head of Washington
Shakespeare Theater, right? Exactly. Yeah, I know
yes,
that is.
Absolutely.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And they gave him, they wanted him to do Carmen, but Michael, brilliant director, but he didn't have a lot of experience with, it's all staging and 100 chorus numbers and So they put us together, and they said, Michael, so we, I know he was a little wary. And of course he said, all right, I'm at the Dakota Hotel. You meet me there every night. We'll go over the show. So we would go there and we talk through each scene and, what the chorus is going to do here. And so this was a nightly thing. And one night it was weird. I just said, Michael, I do not feel safe going to my car. Would you please walk me to my car? So he walked me to the car. And by the time I got home, which was 20 minutes later, Harry met me at the door and said, did you hear what just happened at the Dakota? So that's the night John Lennon was shot.
Wow.
And so we had walked past him, like minutes before.
That's heavy. Wow, that's heavy. Woo.
Yeah. And then we had to continue our meetings. And that was very interesting because, you'll see photos of the crowds outside, and I'd have to go in through the basement.
Wow. I was there. I was there. I went out. I was dating a girl. That was in like 1980. Yeah. I was dating a girl, and in December, my birthday is the 14th.
Yes.
I went there, and that was when Yoko was actually standing by the window a couple of times and waving to the people. And and then I ended up going to Chinatown for dinner with my parents. I remember it very well. Wow, that's amazing that you were actually there. And you had this intuition that you weren't really.
I just
comfortable.
Didn't feel. Well, the 80s also in New York. That's when all the drug stuff was happening, and it became a little more dangerous, or at least the murder rate shot up.
Yeah, different. It's funny. It's funny you say that. The 80s were a different kind of dangerous, because if you go back to when you lived on the West Side in like the Times Square area, it was dangerous, but people were not getting shot and killed on the regular. It was a little different, right?
Yeah, it was. Yes. It was eccentric, but it didn't feel dangerous. But the 80s, that got a little wacky. So yeah, and when I go back to the meetings after that, so you go through the basement, but the flowers would be to the top of the ceiling, and they just had a pathway that you had to go through for all the flowers that had been.
Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah,
it's very sad.
Fascinating.
It really was. So, yeah, do you think that just fast forward a little bit, do you think that the industry, whether it be opera, Broadway, everything that you were involved in, do you think it's changed? How do you think it's changed? I'm not saying this is pre-pandemic. Obviously now we can't, but I'm just talking about the way things, maybe processes, way people are hired, fired, how they get their jobs. Would you care to chime in on that?
I wish I had an intelligent thought on that. What was I reading from someone? A woman. Was she in the Times today or someplace where she just said, "I'm not a fortune teller." She didn't know. She was heading a company, and they had pictures of all of these people who were heading companies, and what did they have to say? I can't imagine what it's like. I have a lot of friends who are professors, and I talk to them a lot, and just their experience of trying to teach mostly the opera singers. And there was a guy, a tough director, and at a big university, and he was practically in tears the other day. He said, "We just had a faculty meeting, and we all feel so inadequate that we can't give our students what they need." So
yeah, you know what? So I just thought of something too. Just what do you think? Just apropos, maybe back on. What did you think about shows like Rent and Hamilton? That more contemporary. Did you see both of them? Did you?
Yes. Well, I saw Hamilton on the streaming.
Right.
Oh my God, I thought it was brilliant.
It was okay.
Oh God, Rent. I had a problem with Rent. Well, I've done Bohème a lot, which of course is what it's
That's
based
why
on.
Correct. And we have to shout out La Bohème Living, right? It's the glamping of
La
Hillary.
Bohème. Oh God, does she do a fantastic job out there? Oh,
I got to do a special ad spot for her. Maybe we'll put one in.
That's the Danner side. She got the Danner
right,
genes.
exactly.
Darn, I didn't. But Rent, it wasn't the music or anything. It's just maybe it was the performance I saw, the cast I saw. I did not get pulled in by the characters. And Bohème, so I missed that. Although if you go back to the original book, the Bohemians, they're a tougher group than the opera.
Got you.
So maybe you'd say Rent went back more to the original characters. But I missed the great emotional upheaval of Puccini, I guess. But yeah, I was
so you got the emotion. So really, that's something you were able to really tie into or got into your core, the actual emotion, because I think that's where people might have trouble if it doesn't really get to them, into their soul, into their core. Yeah. It's hard.
Yes. Yeah. But there are lots of interesting things that people are doing now. And I love doing modern opera. Oh my God. That's the best thing of all. That's the greatest gift of all. If you're working with a composer and he's bringing different stuff in every day, and you're doing a workshop, and everybody's trying to find their character, and there is nothing as exciting as that.
Yeah. That's enlightening. That's enlightening. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I've gotten to work with a lot of, I've even done like Sheldon Harnick, who I met way back in Tenderloin. I've done a couple of Sheldon's
Sheldon
pieces.
Harnick,
We
right?
did one,
Fiddler on the Roof, right?
yeah,
Sheldon Harnick. Yeah, Sheldon. Wow.
yes.
Oh my God. Right.
Yeah, we did one in Washington called The Audition that Domingo starred in. And, oh God, Chenoweth.
Oh, Kristen
Darling
Chenoweth. Yep.
Yes, Kristen Chenoweth, right. Oh, who is a character and a
Yeah,
half.
she is.
Yes.
She is a character. Any advice? Any advice for anybody up and coming that's trying, young people that want to get into, let's just say, forget about not necessarily Broadway, really. Maybe how about opera, just to play it safe for a second.
Yeah.
Is it a very, very, very difficult avenue these days?
It's very competitive, and I opera has a lot of baggage, but they're getting rid of it. But the thing about opera, I think I have more empathy with an opera singer. I mean, what they go through and the languages they have to learn, and the technique to do that. So I have great admiration for them, but also. I think one of the problems is that they work one-on-one with a singing teacher a lot. And, when you're an actor, you're in scenes all the time in acting class. When you're a dancer, you're leaping at each other. So there's a lot of physical, there's an automatic connection. So for the opera singer to work one-on-one all the time and then go into dealing, with partners and communication, and that it's more difficult, I think, for them.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, but now everybody, when I was a young dancer, we really weren't expected to do everything. Now everyone is a triple threat. I am so shocked. I go to shows and I look at everybody doing everything. I think, oh my God, would I have gotten a job? I don't know.
Yeah, you have to be a pro at almost everything. That's correct, and you have to be able to do it immediately.
Exactly.
2, 3, 4, let's go.
Yes. What's great about these universities, because they have the time to concentrate. They're not out trying to make a living.
Right.
Too.
Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. So they're learning their own little quote unquote curriculum, their craft, right? Yeah. Where if you have to be out there hustling, you're not going to really be able to learn as fast unless you're great, and that's rare because there are some geniuses that just are gifted, of course.
Yes.
Sounds great. So what's the next chapter for Dottie Danner? You have one, you think? What do you think besides, I know construction, Dottie Danner Construction Company, renovations by Dottie?
Painting
by Danner?
I don't really know. I think, well, am I going to work again? Is it all over? Should I do, I have to, with this award, I'm going to have to go, do a lot of, I think some master classes and
brush up the Shakespeare from as Kiss Me Kate.
So we'll see if it's there. I'm ready. If not, I've got a lot of other things that have happened. Someone asked me, came the other day and said, "Will you be a mean queen in Robin Hood, a film?" I said, "Oh, please." Then they called again. They said, "We're not going to take no. So it's your role." So now I'm going to have another experience in 2 weeks and do a film.
It sounds great.
So, things pop up. Who knows? I never thought when I was in Melville, Missouri, going fishing that I'd ever end up an opera director. So who knows what the next chapter is? That's
for sure. Well, that's great. So actually, I just want to say it was an absolute pleasure speaking with you.
Oh my gosh, Louis, you are so easy.
I told Russell I would be.
Easy and giving. Lord, I thought this was going to be traumatic.
Yeah, no,
and now
not
I'm
at all.
going to call you every day.
Not at all. Well, anytime. My pleasure. I think we have a lot more to talk about. I mean,
yes.
Yeah.
I sure wanted to talk about your friend Russ and meeting him at Chautauqua and all those good times, but we'll do it another time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we talked a little bit about the summer stock, the Chateau, the Lake George, but I knew that was an interesting time. But I think the other
Pivotal.
stuff, yeah, it was pivotal, and I think also that the other things that you spoke about were also interesting because it gave a little more of an insight to where you were at, where your head was at as well.
Yeah.
And that's really it. So I want to thank you so very much for taking the time.
Oh, Louis, the pleasure is mine. My goodness. No, this is wonderful practice also when I have to accept my award.
Absolutely. Anytime. And I only wish you to stay well, stay healthy, stay safe, and send my regards to the entire family. And
I will.
I'm a big Hillary fan, by the way. So just so you know.
So am
just so you know.
She is just so lovely and so special.
Absolutely.
And so gifted.
No doubt about it. Yeah. She's rocking and rolling, and I love her for that. And I want to thank you once again. Much, much appreciated.
Thank you. Next time you come to Englewood to see your friend, stop by.
You got it. Absolutely.
Okay. Thanks, Louis.
Take care of yourself. Thanks so much for listening. Big shout outs to the crew behind the scenes, John Hart, Ian Lidovich, Russ McMahon, and of course my wife Jill. Don't forget to smash that like button, comment and subscribe, and follow at Grind and Pivot. You already know we appreciate you. Later, son.